My name is Abby Huntrods. I'm married to Clint Huntrods, and we have two boys, Nash and Eli. Nash will be 5 in July, and Eli just turned 2 in April. We came to Des Moines in 2016 and then ended up landing in Polk City in 2017. Growing up, I grew up in West Branch, which is eastern Iowa, just east of Iowa City. Grew up in a, church attending family, I'd say, but not overly involved. Wasn't really involved in any sort of youth ministry. So I would say, it was maybe a religious upbringing until I got to high school, and then I went on a couple mission trips with my dad to Mexico, and that's when I really got to see the incredible faith lived out by it was a Mexican orphanage that we went and we helped a couple years in a row. But being able to see what that true faith and joy in Jesus and the salvation that he offers, to me that was eye-opening, and that was when I really just felt the Holy Spirit working in me, and I trusted in the finished work of Jesus at an orphanage in Mexico. I was 17 at the time. Clint and I have been coming to Lakeside for a few years now. I think we first started coming around Easter of 2018. When we originally moved to Des Moines, we were in Bondurant for about a year and ended up at a church in Ankeny, but wanted to get plugged in Polk City. Our kids at the time, Nash was little, so without having school-age children, it's hard to really get plugged into a community. So I thought moving our church home to a church here in town was a good way to start meeting people and walking through life with other believers, within our own community. Back in January of 2020, I was just taking a shower and kind of fluke deal found a lump that I hadn't previously noticed. The initial step, I guess, when that happens is just going to the doctor and getting some sort of referral to a specialist if it is concerning to the doctor as well. So started out with just a mammogram, and that was, inconclusive. They couldn't tell for sure whether or not it was cancerous. So then had to wait a couple more weeks and then had a biopsy done. And then that did confirm that it was indeed breast cancer. So diagnosed originally in January, and then had a double mastectomy in March of 2020. And maybe due to my own, misunderstanding, I thought that I wasn't going to have to go through chemo or any sort of, additional treatment on top, because they had told me that it was, contained to just the tumor. There was nothing in the lymph nodes. That all came back clear, not only from the biopsy, but also then from the mastectomy surgery. They remove a number of lymph nodes and just confirm that, the cancer hasn't indeed spread. So then come and find out in April, actually because of the kind of cancer that it was triple negative breast cancer, tends to be a little bit more aggressive than some of the other types. And so they were highly recommending I go through kind of their preferred regimen of chemotherapy. So I went through 12 weeks of one drug and then another 8 weeks of a second drug. And then in maybe November or so of 2020, just didn't feel great. It's easy to chalk it up to a lot of other things: poor diet, not working out as much as you should, not getting enough sleep. Finally, in early 2021, I went back to the doctor and just had said, hey, I think that maybe this cancer's back. I have this, this level of fatigue that just doesn't make sense. I just asked for a PET scan because with how it played out with my cancer, because it hadn't spread to the lymph nodes, they never really felt like a PET scan was warranted, just because in theory, if it's not in the lymph nodes, then it's not anywhere else either. So I had that PET scan on March 5th, and the doctor, the oncologist, called me at 5:30 that night, which as soon as I saw the phone ring, knew that it probably wasn't good. So confirmed my thoughts, the cancer was not only back, but it was in my bones, some lymph nodes outside of the chest area, and then my liver and my lungs. There's been a number of things that God is clearly teaching me through this journey. I think the first is, where am I truly seeking fulfillment? Am I finding, my identity in Jesus first? Or am I becoming easily distracted by all the things of today's culture? And is that taking away from him being first in my life? Is he the one thing that drives everything? And then, where are you finding your strength? I think for me, I've always just really been an independent person. I've kind of taken pride in the fact that I'm, self-reliant, capable of taking care of myself. But just like Paul says in 2 Corinthians, for when I'm weak, then I'm strong. As believers, it's not like we're promised this easy life free of heartache. And it doesn't take long. I'm sure most of you that are watching this video have been through some season of hardship or some trial. And it's during those seasons that, the hard stuff is what, in my opinion, forces us back and reminds us that it's only through Jesus that we can have the perseverance and the endurance to continue to, point to the hope that all believers can have. If you're just coasting along and life is pretty easy, your testimony for Christ, it's easy for an unbeliever to say, well, so what? Your life, you haven't gone through anything hard. So I think, God does use the really hard stuff to point to him and to point to that hope that we have in Jesus.